Hello, everyone. My name is Shorne Bennie, and welcome to another edition of WitnessTV. With me today is the lovely Snikiwe Biyela. She is the director of LifeLine Pietermaritzburg. Today is the first time that I'm actually meeting you in person, but you're always ready to, I guess it's because you're so busy, and you're always ready to assist us on the phone with our queries and comments and things. And you always respond no matter what the time is. And today I get to meet you. And Snikiwe is going to be speaking with us about, the upcoming Women for Change Women Shutdown. And also 16 days of activism is on our doorstep. Snikiwe, we are very happy to have you with us today.
Good morning, Shanae, and good morning to all the Witness followers, especially it's the first time I'm coming to the Witness TV, so I'm quite excited. And thank you for having me. And we have a long relationship with the Witness. For us at LifeLine, Witness is our second home. It's like our loudest voice when you want to raise issues. We know the Witness is going to be backing us up and amplifying those voices and those messages. So finally, I'm happy to be on the Witness TV.
We're absolutely glad to have you. Snikiwe, Women for Change is hosting a women's shutdown ahead of the G20. And as we see it, there's already so many purple profile pictures. There's women dressing in purple, and it's all for this march, the shutdown. Can you tell us a bit more about this?
I think, first of all, the amount of people that are joining this march and changing their statuses on their phone, whether it's X, whether it's TikTok, whether it's WhatsApp, into purple, it's just on its own an indication of how much people are crying for change. Because if this issue of gender-based violence was not important to them, they wouldn't be actually doing what they're doing now. You could see that the organization that has started it have actually started something that the whole nation is crying for. They're crying for change. So my understanding is we are all, as organizations that are working in this space of gender-based violence, I think we're asking for solidarity within the country, and we're all saying, can we stand together and demand change? Because actually we feel that there is no political will to bring about certain changes when it comes to the stage of gender-based violence. So it doesn't mean people must actually use money or travel and go far. Wherever you are, in your comforts of your home, in your comforts of your office, you can take a moment and just join the struggle and stand in solidarity with women, with children, with also men, because we know boys too do get raped. It's for us, it's for all the survivors of gender-based violence that have lost lives in this country, and where you see actually very minimum sentencing of the perpetrators if you have to compare with how many women have fallen, how many children, their future has been taken away. So for us, we feel that this campaign, it's needed, and you could see with the country's response that they also see the need, and they all demanding change. We want to see things done differently in the country.
Now, as we know, gender-based violence, and as you've touched on, it's not just against women and children, but also men, boys. And I think it's very important that we talk to, children. We start them off young, and we inform them that this is what is abuse. And abuse is not only physical abuse, it's emotional abuse. And what would you like to say to our listeners? Give us examples about abuse against women, children, boys, that we don't see, and it gets swept under the carpet. And that abuse can fester from a child and into an adult life, and it leads them, impacting on others.
I think maybe for our viewers at home, the first thing that we need to understand, because sometimes when people talk about gender-based violence, they think it's something that is far, it's not going to happen to them. In the last 6 months, from April up to end of September, LifeLine Pietermaritzburg alone in Umgungundlovu districts have supported close to 2,500 new survivors of gender-based violence in this 6 months alone. And we're talking about just one district, Umgungundlovu districts. So if you have to think about the whole country, how many survivors are out there? But you know, Shorne, what was said is that in this period where we've supported over 2,500, the youngest survivor of rape was a 3-month-old baby that we had to assist now. And in our previous cases, you'll find that the oldest person that has been raped in our areas where we work, it's someone who is 89 years old or even in their 90s, an old granny that has been raped. That is just not numbers. And sometimes we think it's just a number. These are people with real emotions, with real feelings that have really traumatized, and sometimes their lives have been ripped apart and they cannot actually fully recover from the impacts of rape. Coming back to the stats that I just gave you, 20% of the stats that I've just presented, it's boys. It's a boy child that has been raped. So you can see that the stats of boys that are being targeted by other men, it's increasing on a daily basis. So as we think about this shutdown, I'm calling out on all men and boys to join as well, because the struggle is not about only women. We are seeing the increase on the number of boys that are being targeted, that are being raped. And we don't want to wake up one day and now we have 50% of men and boys that are being raped, or even higher numbers, and we're crying to say, how did we get here? We are already seeing the trends. We're getting there. And the question is, what are we doing as a country to protect our boys? Gone are the days where a boy child can disappear for hours and hours going to play football or going to play at the neighbor's house, that nobody monitors where the boy child had gone. And it happens a lot in families in townships and rural areas. Parents are so laid back, they chilled. If the boy child has disappeared, they think, oh, he's going to play with his friends. But hey, they are being raped. And most of the times they don't talk about it because they are so embarrassed that how possible that something like this could have happened to me. So they don't talk about it. And I feel that the stats, even that 20%, I don't think it's a real figure.
Yes.
I think a lot of it goes unreported and a lot of it goes unnoticed. And again, cultural things like men don't cry, I think it puts more pressure on men and boys that are even survivors themselves not to say anything. And not only rape, you've quoted things about emotional abuse, about physical abuse. We've supported men at LifeLine that have been boiled with hot boiling cooking oil that gets thrown at them, that have been survivors of hot water that have been thrown at them. So they are also going through physical abuse. They're also going through emotional abuse. It's just that indoor in Zulu we say. And that it's been kind of like drowned in boys from the time they're young, that window day week, why are you crying? What's wrong with you? And we as a country, as parents, and I'm talking to all parents at home, stay away from using those messages. We need to allow, they're also human beings, they have feelings. We don't want to have men that are so cruel because they are so angry and they have been, in a way, keeping all these emotions and feelings inside themselves.
Because that boils over.
It does.
What leads to men, bottling things up.
It does. But also we need them to support women as well. So we want them to have empathy. So we can't raise them to this very tough people that have no emotions or no feelings. Because then how are they going to support these sisters? How are they going to support their mothers? We want them to be kind, gently men that are going to be out there to assist as well, but also knowing that they are equally vulnerable and we need to support them.
And they are equally valued.
Yes. So we definitely need to support them. So I feel at home, we really need to support both kids. We need to make sure that they are both safe. Both children, because they're young, they're both vulnerable regardless of their gender. And we need to make sure that they are safe, they are protected. If you say to your girl child, don't go out, also the boy child should not be going out equally, because we know it's bad out there. It is really bad. And for parents to just let them disappear, for me, it just gives me sleepless nights, because I think, oh my word. And we've also seen, and it's embarrassing, we've seen young boys like ages 9, 10 that have been raped by females and they get STIs. And when you ask the boy child what happened, nannies or aunts, the helpers, at times the cousins have raped the 6-year-old boy and they end up with STIs, females. So when we really look at this gender-based violence, it includes everybody. And if you look at the laws protect all of us as South African, regardless of our gender. Yes. It's just that women are more vocal. And yes, we know statistically more women are affected in comparison to men. But we're not saying men out there are not affected. And we're calling upon all of them to come forward and get supports, because we're there to also support men and boys that might have been victims of gender-based violence.
Absolutely. And I think it's also very important for, male figures, fathers, brothers, uncles, to, take on the role of being that figure in which you also teach and, help a boy child to understand that, yes, it's okay to show your emotions. Even mothers, it's okay to show your emotions. It's okay to, if you have an issue, go to someone, even if it's a female or a male that you trust, go to them, speak to them, and say, look, I have this issue. I need help.
True. I think what the new trends that we have seen at the office recently, which is something that really worries us, because a boy child is left in a way to raise himself, to go play. Nobody really worries what exactly is he doing. So most of them, like the age 12, 13, 14, they are going deeper and deeper on pornography, because they always have gadgets and parents think the cell phone must do the parenting. They are watching porn movies or videos, and they are practicing or reenacting what they've seen on girls that are 9 and 8. And when we ask them, why are you targeting this age group? Guess what the answer is? Because we know they will not fall pregnant. So it means we have an understanding that sex could lead to pregnancy. And now we're targeting young girls that are not yet on their periods, but we're practicing everything we've seen on pornography. So again, this is just another sign or a symptom of how deeply this illness is getting into our societies, because that age group, they 13, they 14, in our heads, we think they're still young, but they're becoming young offenders. So by the time they become 20, 30, you know how much experience of raping they would have, because they've already started at the age of 13. And nobody's saying it, and it's pornography, which for us, it's another thing as a country that we really, really need to look at seriously, and we need to make sure there are laws that really prevents pornography from being easily accessible to children. What they have said to us when we talk to them, these young boys, they say sometimes they'll be playing on the phone, and this thing comes as a picture of a nice car, and boys in cars, they will click on it because they'll think, wow, this is a nice car. Then it's not car, it's a porn video. But it's a view once, so they will look at it, and when they go back to say, oh, what was that about? It's gone. Or sometimes they are being groomed, which is even more scary, by adults, that makes them watch these porn videos, and then they force them to do what they've just watched. But then it becomes a learned behavior that some of those boys that have been exposed to rape, but they've been groomed through porn, then they go and do it to another child. So they go watch and then go do it. But when you talk to them in a group, we run groups with boys. Because they're free in those groups, they tell us where they're learning these things from. Then you realize, again, messages need to reach parents at home. They really need to monitor what the child is watching on that phone. They really need to make sure that some apps are not actually functional. They can't access some things. They need to have passwords and keys to certain things. And parents think, oh, I'm so busy, I want to take a nap, I want to sleep. Here's the phone. And then the child goes wild on that phone. And at times you find that parents themselves are not, they don't have a lot of knowledge when it comes to social media and these phones. So sometimes they're not even aware what the child is watching, and they can't even go check history of what the child was surfing on the net because of the maybe age, or maybe they're busy. You have no time to really go surf the net and see and say, bring your phone, I want to see what you've been up to. Yes. They don't. But if you have to take that phone as a parent, you will be shocked, you will cry to realize what your child has been up to. We've also seen some kids do take these phones to school. You might think your child is safe. My child doesn't have a phone. I've never given him a phone or her. She's protected. At school,
they have access to their friends' phones.
Yes, and the friends shows them the videos. So again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier on. Parenting, talking to them, constantly talking to them. I think gone are the days where we must shy away from talking about these issues as parents. We really need to have most difficult conversations with our children as far as all these issues are concerned. Because shying away, it will just bring a lot of problems at home, because I don't think there is any parent out there that have one strength to have a child that is a rapist. I think when you're breastfeeding that child and you're holding that baby, you can only think of having someone who's going to be a professional, someone who's going to be doing so well in life. There is no parent that sees their child as somebody who's going to be a serial rapist or an abuser that is going to end up in jail. So where do we go wrong? Because at some point, while raising that child, things went wrong. And I feel as parents, we really need to also look closely to ourselves and say, how can we change this? So when we're talking about the shutdown and changing things, we're not only targeting government, we're talking about change at the community level, at the church level, in workspaces, everywhere.
At the home level.
Yes, and the home level. Everywhere we're talking about change. So this is a call to say, we can't do the same things the same way and expect different results. It's time we look at things differently. From the home level, what are we doing wrong? We can't point fingers at everybody. We also need to say, as a parent, why I'm allowing or letting the teacher do my work? Why I'm thinking the government is going to come do my work? What am I doing? What is my role? What is my contribution?
Absolutely well said, Snikiwe. Now, along with that, we are approaching 16 days of activism against women and children abuse. And one of the things that we've noticed as journalists as well is, and also this happens around Women's Month in August, there seems to be an increase in these issues and, violence against women and children. And there's a lot more cases, and the abuse is worse. Why does this happen when it should be a time where we're educating? And I know we attend so many events to educate people, to help people, but then it ends up being the opposite.
I would think there are two reasons of why it's waste. I think the first one, it's really, I think perpetrators know that we just, that saying that an empty vessel makes a lot of noise. I think perpetrators have figured out that there's nothing that's going to be done to them. As sad as it sounds, but honestly, if you look at number of cases that are being reported on a monthly basis versus the convictions that happens in the justice system, you will cry, it's less than 2%. So what does that tell us? More and more perpetrators know that even if I perpetrate, the law is going to take forever and ever and ever to actually turn and look at my direction and for me to actually start facing the consequences of my behavior. So people know that they can get away with it. For example, you've mentioned Women's Day. In 2023, our president mentioned on the 9th of August in 2023 that there will be no bail given to GBV survivors, perpetrators. He said there will be no bail that is going to be granted to the perpetrators of gender-based violence. Ask me if that has been actioned. Zero. It was a talk. That's why I'm saying I feel as South Africans, we're very good at talking. We do very little when it comes to implementing the things that we have said, which is very sad because I think perpetrators are capitalizing on that. They know, because I would like to know what President has done from 2023. 2 years later, it's 2025. Perpetrators of gender-based violence are getting bail every day in magistrate court in Pietermaritzburg. We go every day to toy outside
we report
to say
this.
No bail. Recently, we had a police officer that raped a 17-year-old girl that he applies for bail. We go outside to say no bail to this man because you know the law, but you still went and you raped this girl. So for me, I feel we are doing things, there's no implementation of some of these laws that we have. And until we start doing something, and I think as a country, we get excited when things are being said, but we don't follow up to say this thing was said in 2023. What have we done 2 years later? Why perpetrators are still being released on bail? Because now that should not be happening. I understand being said in August 2023. Maybe by January 2024, you need to start seeing some work being done to say, yeah, now they're not getting, but they're still getting bail every day. So secondly, I feel that the other reason why there are a lot of cases, it's because around this time, remember, survivors of gender-based violence are very scared to talk about the violence that had happened to them because they will be blamed for it, they'll be stigmatized. Sometimes the perpetrator have really said things that scares them the most. So during this time, because there's a lot of attention towards, there's a lot of media, there's a lot of talk, they feel safe. They feel that maybe I can talk about it, I'll be supported. And maybe that's why there's a lot of reporting. Because when we see it with those survivors that have reported during 16 days, when you see it with them, you realize it wasn't the first incident. It's been happening for so long, they didn't have courage. So I feel the hype that happens around 16 days also gives them courage to report. They realize that I'm not alone. There are all these organizations that are out there to support me. Maybe it's a safe time to talk about it. But in most cases, even women that gets killed around that 16 days, if you listen to the history, you'll know that the abuse has been going on maybe for 5 years or even more. There were protection orders. There were a lot of things. But the woman was killed at the end. Because why? The justice failed the woman or failed that child. And that's why eventually they end up dying. But as I said, it's those two things. Perpetrators know nothing will happen to them. And women feel maybe I'll get more support if I talk now, and they start talking, which is a positive thing. Yes, it looked like cases have increased, but I feel for the better because at least that period, that space gives them time to talk about their traumas and about what they're going through. And I so wish we do not have only 10 days of activism. If we had support like that throughout the year, imagine how many women would have courage. Imagine how many children would have courage to talk about it. Because we are quiet for the whole year until now. In November, now we're going to be talking. But GBV has been happening.
The entire year.
365 days we were quiet. Only 10 days of the 365 we wake up and think, women are being killed, children are being raped, and we start doing something. If we had that support throughout the year, one, I feel there'll be less incidences because people will be reporting and they will, if perpetrators are also being taken into task. But secondly, I feel that some children, for example, they get groomed quietly and they don't see it as grooming. Remember, during 16 days, schools are being educated. A lot of people, so young children also get all these messages that they don't normally get throughout the year. If you listen to the children's cases, how they get given sweeties, lollipops, and this, and they promised R1 and they get raped. Sometimes during 16 days, when we go to schools and talk to them, those cases come forward. So yes, they come forward as new cases, but the truth is, it's been going on for a very long time. It's only now it's being reported because of the support. They feel safe because the environment that has been created within the 10 days makes them feel comfortable to talk. And I'm urging South Africans to keep the environment like that for 365 days because then more children, more women will be supported and they'll come forward and report.
And that can be the direction that we want for, we can't end something, but it would be the direction in which we would then be able to at least decrease what is happening in society.
Definitely. We need to decrease it. And yes, decreasing it will eventually get us to a point where we see maybe one case a month. Like now, in 6 months, if you're seeing about 2,500, that's shocking. And it means, I always think by the time we become grannies, how many women and girls would have been raped? It's when you start thinking about it, you ask yourself, will we ever have one South African that will say I was never raped or was never abused in my life? If you look at the trends and how it's going in communities. So it is very scary, but also looking at who are these people that are doing it, because it's the most trusted people that children trust, that they don't think this is going to happen to them. I mean, pastors are doing it. You just don't know where to turn to.
Yes.
Which is scary.
Now, coming to that, as you say, there's no one that you can really trust. And as I was saying earlier, as kids, my mom never allowed us to stay over at family members' homes. And we thought, but what? We are the only ones that are not staying at cousins' homes or families' homes. But now we understand the reason behind it. And what I want us to talk about is we're coming to the holidays. Kids go home to grandparents, uncles, aunts. And if you could just tell us about what are some of the things that kids need to look out for, parents need to be aware for. Yes, because, holidays are a time where you're going to spend with male cousins, female cousins, your sisters, uncles. What are some of the things that can go wrong?
I know with the Witness, we've discussed this, we've written articles about these issues because it's our sore nerve as well as LifeLine. School holidays between December and Jan, as well as the long ones in June, July school holidays. That's where our states for rape cases increases that involves children. It goes higher than normal because especially around the festive season. And I think there are a lot of things that contributes to that. First of all, parents like shipping their kids away to the grandparents' house. But when you send them to the grandparents' house, all other cousins, like how you've said, they're going to be there at the grandparents' house. And nobody knows what is happening. Because most of the times, grannies are too old to look now or supervise 15 children that have been sent to the granny's house. And we always say to parents, keep your children closer to you. Because when you send them, yes, maybe the granny and the grandfather are really good grandparents. But there are people that are going to visit the granny's house. There are neighbors that are going to visit the granny's house. Your child is going to leave and go to the neighbors at the granny's house. And that's where most of the times this rape happens. There is a cousin, a naughty one that lives far, that nobody knows he's been raping wherever he's coming from, that is going to visit as well and start doing those naughty things here. So we always say to parents, if possible, first of all, you should be where your children are. If possible. If it's not possible, you really need to sit down with your child. And first of all, you need to know the family very well where you're sending your child to. Because I've seen parents are very brave at times, especially around festive season. I think because they want to be free, they want to have all the time to themselves and go to parties and do this. For them, the quickest thing is to send them away. But when they come back, children don't tell parents what happened. They wait until schools opens. So when schools opens, teachers in January get to hear about things that happened in December. And guess what teachers do? Call LifeLine. But at that time, it's very late. The evidence is gone. So where I'm going with this is that if you have no other alternative as a mother but to send your child to your relatives, then have a serious talk with your child in terms of bad touches and good touches and how you love your child. And if anything happens, you must be the first person to know. Because there is still this critical period of 72 hours where one, we needed to collect evidence, but it's very important in case the person that raped the child is HIV positive, for the child to be put on medication to prevent the HIV infection. And after that 72-hour period, if someone who raped the child was HIV positive, that child, chances of him or her being positive are very, very high. So, but children keep quiet because they wait for January. Imagine, I think next year schools are opening around the 19th of January. they'll be keeping quiet from now because they're finishing writing exams now. And parents don't wait. The day they finish writing exams, tomorrow your bags are packed, off you go. So they're going to be going now in November until January 15, 16, they're going to be coming back. As a parent, you would have lost all the evidence that you needed to support your child. If the person was positive, your child would come back infected with HIV. Some comes back pregnant because now the perpetrator had impregnated them. So for me, I feel like parents, one, stop sending them. That should be the first priority. Like how you were saying your parents never allowed you to go. That should really be the attitude you're adopting. If your child go, you go with your child. We're not saying kids mustn't know the family members and the extended family. As a parent, jump into that taxi, jump into that car, go with them, spend a whole weekend with the extended family. Take your kids back into the car, off you go. Because that's, at least we know you would have done anything in your power to protect them. When you let them go on their own, you know as a parent, you are taking a huge risk. By the time they come back, it might not be the same child that you sent away. You sent away the child that was emotionally raw. You might have a child that is completely broken and traumatized by the time they come back. And that is the risk that parents are taking. So if you are forced to send, have a serious conversation about bad touches and good touches. Tell them where to report if something had happened to them. Teach them your number so that they can call you, so that they can send callbacks. Tell them, show them how to send callbacks if they have no money. Because you will know if you get that callback from your child, you must make all the means to return the call, because then it will mean something is bad. I always say to parents, teach your child a safe word to use. Let's say the child is in a space where the child can't say I was raped. But in all families, I always say you must have a word in the family that indicates I'm not safe without saying I'm not safe, because the child might be with people, but she wants to say I'm not safe. But there must be a word that you know if the child uses this word, it means I must go there like now, without the child disclosing rape, because at times they can't disclose it.
Yes. Yeah.
But when they use that, they must know. But also parents need to take notes of certain things. Sometimes they will be this uncle that will love your child. You find that there's so many other kids in this house, like you have 5 or other 6. The uncle will be buying chips for this one, buying lollipops for this one, giving 100 Rand notes to this one. Whatever cool drinks the uncle comes with, it's going only for this child. Normally parents get so excited that, oh, my child is really loved by this person. Oh, this person is kind towards my child. I always say to parents, wake up, smell the coffee. That child is either being groomed or the uncle is trying to get closer. Because if you're an uncle and a fair uncle, why don't you buy chips for everybody?
Everyone.
Why don't you give money for everyone? Why don't you say share that 100 Rand notes? Why only for Snikiwe? Because the uncle is trying to buy Snikiwe with lollipops, with pockets of chips, and ultimately the uncle gets what he wants. So there's a lot of grooming that happens. But also we've seen parents, the child will say, I don't want to go to Uncle so-and-so anymore. Parents get upset and they start beating up the child. Instead of sitting down and say, you've been visiting all along and you've been happy. What has happened now? They say you are being naughty, you are being rude, you don't want to respect adults, you will go there. So when your child says to you, I don't feel comfortable, I don't want to go, can you sit down with your child and find out what has happened? Because something has happened that made the child decide not anymore. So I'm urging parents out there to listen to them. They're small, and I know as parents we have tendencies of refusing to listen to children.
Yes.
But if we really want to protect them when it comes to rape and gender-based violence, can we all give them an ear and just sit down with them and find out why you are so uncomfortable going to Uncle so-and-so because all along you were going, or to this grandfather, or to this person over there because you've been going. Also, I know culturally, we say children must have respect. When the adult sends them to the shop, they must go, hi, I tell my children, you must not have no respect. Nobody must send you anyway without my knowledge. Because they get sent to the shop, when they come back to buy bread or milk, they have to take it to the uncle's house and they get raped. And sometimes parents would say, go help Uncle so-and-so. And then they get raped. So I always say, no, Uncle so-and-so must walk to the shop and go buy. Because my safety of my child is key and important. He must walk himself.
And
so
the respect of your child.
So certain things that culturally were right all along has proved to be actually making the ground fertile for the children to be raped. Previously, it was seen as respect. Now, we're sending them into that lion.
Into that lair.
Yes, as parents we do. And same as I've seen parents where the pastor will say, I had a vision, your child have demons, you need to bring your child to me for a cleansing ceremony or for a prayer. Parents do take, sometimes both the mother and the father will accompany the child to the pastor's house, leave the child. The pastor will say, go wait in another room because if you hear the demons are going to leave the child and come to you. So that they don't come to you, go wait in the other room, the child gets raped. When parents are there, okay, those cases have finished me. We've seen them at LifeLine. You just want to cry on behalf of the child because you think, as a parent, why did you leave the room? If demons comes to you, then fine, let the demons come to you. But stand there and see what this pastor is doing. They've been raped while their parents are there in the same yard because they're too trusting. So it goes back to that respect and too trusting. Sometimes children need to be told not to trust strangers, not to trust even people they know. They must not trust them. Finish.
From all that you've said, I can only think that it's so evil that you would have an elder who would lure a child on the pretext of buying them sweets or things or taking them and going out and so forth. It's such an evil practice in our society.
It is. But they know that children, because they're small, you can easily, in a way, either intimidate them or easily convince them about something that they don't even, the uncle doesn't even own. We've had cases at LifeLine where the perpetrator will promise the child, like a 12-year-old, that if you sleep with me, this whole house is going to be yours. And the 12-year-old gets so excited that they're going to get this whole house. And she, in a way, give in into it. But the uncle is somebody who's 38 years old, promising a 12-year-old the whole house if you sleep with me. Again, it goes to trust. The child doesn't see anything wrong because they're so innocent and they're young and naive. They can't see through the actions of these adults. But parents need to be always there. If as parents are failing the children, the big question is, who will protect them? Government can only do so much. People that are working as social workers can only do so much. A parent is somebody who is at home with the child every day. What are we doing to make sure that our children are safe? And when are we going to stop using the old ways in the new kind of like communities where there's so much crime and we're still bringing cultural things into today's time where we know people cannot be trusted anymore? So I think we need to change the script. We've been saying respect adults, we must change the script and say, hey, you need to respect yourself, and you feel unsafe, run for your life.
Absolutely. Definitely. Snikiwe, with, as we said, it's important to report things as it happens. Where and how, if you don't have access to your parent, where can you report this? How can you report this as quick as possible? Can you go to your nearest police station? How can you, as a child, how would I be able to get assistance quickly if I'm at a family member's house and this has happened to me? And if I cannot call my parent, or as you said, sometimes you cannot you cannot say this in front of the person. Where can you go? Can the child maybe go to a church? What are some of the places that LifeLine also has?
That's a very good question, but a very difficult one, given the issues that the very few people the child can trust in our days. But if the child is away from home and this has happened, they need to find either another adult. It could be a neighbor that they can go report, because some neighbors, they have done good things. They've taken actions. They've escalated the matter. They've reported it to Because I'm also thinking it depends on the age of the child. Yes, we can say to a child, you can go to social workers, you can go to police station. If the child is in deep rural areas and there is no nearby police station, there is no nearby social worker, where do they go except the adults that might be in a neighborhood? So sometimes going to somebody that is older in that household or in a neighborhood, sometimes in the household doesn't work because they want to protect the perpetrator and they will tell the child, this must stay between the two of us, so don't talk about it. But I always say to children, tell as many adults as possible. Don't tell one. Because when you tell one, what if that one goes and support the perpetrator? So I always say to children, yes, you might tell if there's a granny in this house, go tell the granny, but go tell the neighbors as well. If there's a big aunt, tell the big aunt, but tell as many people as possible, because at least one of those people that you've told, at least one might actually act and protect the child. Kids, I always say, they're very smart with phones. If parents can tell them that if something bad happens to you, this is the word you need to just send to me. Just one word. Don't tell them complicated things. Send me this one word, that safe word, that as a family will agree. This is our safe word. Send it. I will know when to come and fetch you. I'll come immediately. I'll pick you up. Then the whole story can come out at home. Because sometimes kids can play with your phone. Let's say they visited your house. They can say, can you borrow me a phone and I play a game? While they're playing game, they can go send a thing. Quickly, one word. Even if you say it, you'll think it's just a word. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
In the meantime, they've reported. So I always say to parents, have one word. Tell them. Borrow that person's phone. Send that one word. The parents need to come because they know it's a word that means I'm not safe.
I'm in trouble. Snikiwe, with the Women for Change march and shutdown that's coming up, what do you want from this? Yes, I know that we'll be dressing up in purple and we'll be showing our support with profile pictures and statuses. But what do you want to see from this?
I think for me, I'm hoping for change. I'm hoping our government, our justice system, they will see that as citizens of South Africa, we are tired. We are done seeing women and children and some men dying in the hands of the people that's supposed to protect them, in the hands of people that's supposed to love them, that's supposed to care for them, and they killing them or they raping them and they traumatizing them. So I'm hoping if South Africans stands in solidarity and the government will see that there is now no bushes to hide. They have to face this and they have to do something and they have to do it now. It's like how they've taken 2 years to just stop them from getting bail. I'm hoping even that is going to end now. They will not get bail. Like for me, it's small actions like that all the words that have been said all these years, can we action them? For me, if we can action some of the things that we've said, if our leaders have said, including our president, we will see some justice being done for women. We are asking for justice. We're done with cases of children being withdrawn from courts because I'm telling you, about 70% of children cases that goes to court gets withdrawn because they're too young. And perpetrators are seeing that and they're targeting them. So what I'm hoping for, withdrawal of children's cases will stop. What I'm hoping for, perpetrators will not be given bail. But also, I'm hoping that bigger sentences will be given to people that have been found guilty of abuse. We have cases of women that were beaten up by hammer, and I think, and that's how Witness covered that story about 2 years ago. The husband took a hammer. The woman had a protection order. Husband took a hammer, beat her up with a hammer so badly that she lied in hospital unconscious. The man was found guilty, was only given 2 years in prison, came out on parole. He's out already on parole.
I remember this.
What is this? This is what we're crying for. That even when there is like overwhelming evidence of the woman being abused and almost lost her life, South African laws at the moment seems to be siding with the perpetrators. He's out on parole, and this woman came running to LifeLine last week, crying to say he's out again. We know he almost killed him. He's out. So we're hoping women's lives and children's lives are going to be taken seriously in South Africa. Because honestly, I don't think women's lives and children's lives do matter at the moment. Looking at how the justice system is going, I don't think it matters. So we're hoping after this, they will realize it matters and they must do something through actions, not words. We're done with words. They must stop kuluma. They must act.
I think they need to set the example.
Yes.
Snikiwe, what is LifeLine going to be doing for the 16 days of activism?
That's a good question. As we know, we're having this event on the 21st. For us, that is a build-up for the 25th of November, which is the first day of marking the 16 days of activism. Currently, we are planning to join the KZN legislature in our activities for 16 days of activism. They've shown a lot of interest in working with LifeLine and participating in the program. So it will start at the KZN legislature, then we will go to Market Square in Pietermaritzburg at the city center, where we're going to be all dressing in pink, and we'll be standing there in solidarity again. But this time around, we want to send a lot of messages about the frontline workers that are also involved in cases of rape. People that are supposed to be protecting the survivors. We're seeing more and more statistics of survivors coming forward and saying, but I was raped by a teacher, I was raped by the SAPS member, I was raped by a nurse. So we are saying, or church leader, or a ward councillor. So we are saying as LifeLine, we can't shy away from the frontline workers joining the list of becoming perpetrators. And we're saying where survivors must go to. So after that, we're going to go to the city hall, where we're going to have some high-level conversation, where we're inviting people from the provincial level to say, as a province, as a KZN province, what do you want to do differently? We're done talking, we're done marching. We need to do things differently. And how will that something different look like? So everybody is going to be there discussing, as we start the new year, what are the new things that as KZN we want to do differently to end the scourge of gender-based violence? And then that thing is going to be monitored on a quarterly basis to make sure that it gets implemented, because we want new ideas, we want to do things in a new way to end the scourge.
And I'm sure you're calling on the community.
Definitely, we are calling on all community members, especially people around Gongondlovu districts, to come join us, and they must wear their pink T-shirts, and they must stand with us in solidarity at the Market Square. As I said, we'll start at the legislation, but we're calling everybody to stand with us. It will start at 10 and it will finish at 12 at the Market Square. So we're only requesting 2 hours of people's time to join us in this good cause and to end the scourge of gender-based violence.
Snikiwe, thank you so much for joining us. It's been absolutely wonderful talking to you and educating our viewers.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the time, and thank you for having me. And I know, as I said, the Witness is our family, so I know this relationship is still continuing. And thank you for amplifying our voices. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Friday marks a momentous occasion in which there will be a nationwide shutdown, calling on the community to not only address but also educate each other about the scourge of GBV. Now, with the campaign, they are calling for everyone to either wear black or lie down in solidarity with 15 women who are killed every single day in the country. Speaking more about this with me is Elton Adkins. He has started Unite Against GBV. Elton, thank you for joining us in our studios.
Thank you. Thank you, Shorne. Thank you to the Witness.
Elton, you come from a community, and well, I'm not going to say only you, but there are many men out there who come from communities where GBV is a problem.
Yes.
And what made you decide to say, I'm going to start this?
Well, the turning point for me was May 2023, just on the eve of Mother's Day. Delana Cater was murdered in Ashburton by her ex-husband. And so that became, for me, a turning point where I said, this cannot keep going on. We need male figures in our communities, in our city, to fight against this. Yeah. And myself and a few other guys, we got together and we decided to be a voice in our communities instead of sitting on the sidelines, because so many women are affected by this, and yet they're the ones in the forefront. And so we decided, let people see there are males out there that don't abuse, and that can be an example to other young men growing up. And so that's when we decided to take on this fight, and yes, that's why I also decided to form Unite Against GBV.
Now, with, speaking about GBV, and one of the other guests that I spoke with, GBV and men facing GBV
Yes,
is often something that's not spoken about, and it can be seen as such a taboo, or
sure.
people don't want to address it because it's a man. But I feel, and from what I've seen in the stories that we've covered, is that if men do not address these issues, it festers and it continues,
Yes.
and it affects them later on in life, and it also affects the relationships that they keep.
Yes. Yeah, you're so right. There has been, which the witness has also covered, cases of where men have been murdered by their partners, female partners, and so we're not just there for women. We trying to dispel that notion and that misconception that Unite Against GBV or any other gender-based organization is only there for women and children. We are also there for men, and we have represented and supported quite a few men that have been brave enough to come forward to say, I am being abused. And so many times, even in our own communities, I will see there many times a lot of men will say we're going through verbal abuse at the hands of women. So women's words bring them down, make them lose their self-esteem. So we also trying to say to women, at both parties, respect each other. Respect goes a long way. There is no reason for anyone to talk down to anyone, to disrespect each other. And we always encourage men, come forward. That's why sometimes we get a bad name, because they say it's only women. Oh, no, we say, come speak to us, and we want to hear your side of the story too. That's what we're there about. Yeah.
What has been some of the cases that without naming anyone,
Yes.
what has been some of the examples of the cases that you have dealt with, so that our viewers can get an understanding of what is GBV, what is abuse?
Yes.
Because a lot of the times, people can be experiencing such, but they wouldn't think until someone says, this is what you're going through, and then the alarm bells go off.
Sure.
So what are examples of this in the community?
Yeah. We get all types. People have asked us, can we get a protection order concerning emotional abuse, verbal abuse, financial abuse? We say abuse is abuse. You don't just go to court for sexual abuse, physical abuse. You can go to court, get a protection order for emotional abuse, mental abuse, because your mental health is important. Mental experts always talk about your mental health awareness, and you've got to take cognizance of that. So we always say to people, but come forward. I mean, we have gone to court basically for people taking a protection order, victims for emotional abuse, and we encourage women to do it. Don't just go because it's physical abuse. Emotionally, you're damaged. The person, that male or female is saying things to you that you want to take your own life. It leads to that, where you think of suicide of a way out. And we're saying to you, no, reach out to us, reach out to other organizations that do this. I mean, the courts are there for that, and the courts have to prosecute on that. And although we don't hear much about it, we hear about the physical or the femicide, but there is that part where it's also emotional, which obviously doesn't get reported because, I've heard this saying years ago: if it bleeds, it leads. And so, people always go with that, something that's gory, or that's the big news. But there are women out there that are really suffering and going to stuff.
Now, 15 women a day. 15.
It's scary.
It says something
Yeah.
about the country that we live in, the society that we live in. But the number 15 I mean, it's way more than one.
Yeah.
And what does this say, or what do you want to say to communities out there that are affected and this happens? Because that may not be the actual figure, because a lot more can be going
Sure.
on. So, in terms of that, what is your plea to the community? To speak out, to address these issues, start boys off from a young age to talk about this, women from a young age to talk about this, and to realize that abuse is not okay.
Yeah, Shanae, that 15 women a day, it doesn't even include also children, you know, yes, men too, but 15 women a day is quite scary. And when you look at it per month, it's about 320, I think, women a month that have been killed. And so, uh, we that's why I'm thankful for Women for Change. They're such a huge organization. They are bringing awareness to this. And for us, the disappointment is the government not making this a national crisis, which they've been calling for, and other organizations have been calling for, that this will be made a national crisis. Um, talking about that, as you said, it's not even counting the children and the men. What about the rapes that don't get reported? The abuse, there's so much that does not get reported. If we look at about 115 rapes per day, I think, imagine the ones that do not get reported. And so it is a national crisis. And if the government cannot see this, we don't know, then what is the problem? Um, and so, 16 days of activism is starting on the 25th of November too. And then we'll also hear the voices from government saying, we need to do this and do campaigns. And yet, are they just paying lip service to it? And are they really got their hearts into this? And so, we've realized, I think, GBV organizations, that we cannot rely on government to help us. We've been reaching out to government for assistance, whether financially, to help us in so many other areas, but we know government will not going to help us. So that boat has passed. And so we realize that, we've got to work together. We've got to educate our communities.
That's absolutely true. Coming back to Delana, and I want to speak about her a bit, because I actually I was going through my phone and I have messages from as far as COVID, and Delana was one of the people who messaged me around 2021, and that was when she was getting her music career started, and
Yes.
she started off with her CDs, and then she went to do, I think, a pageant and so forth. She was someone who, she was growing herself. She was a mother of her children, and a daughter and a sister, and a wife as well, and I remember when I went to their home
Yes.
when she was murdered, and there was a sense of a home that had been broken.
Yes.
She has 3 other siblings, but
Yes.
and I remember her mom. I didn't meet her mom on the day because they'd put her out. They'd sedated her, and it felt so surreal that someone I knew from a story that I did, and then I'm now here to cover the fact that she was murdered by her husband in view of family members. And you say that from this incident, you started Unite Against GBV. What was that like? Because that was one of the stories that rocked the community, and also her brother-in-laws saw this happened.
Sure.
So what was it like also just supporting them and assisting at the time?
Yeah. It was a major undertaking, I'll be honest with you. I remember when the Witness first covered that story and said the ex-husband's going to appear in court for bail application. And I just so innocently just put a comment there. I think we should gather at the court on that day. And it was just like a snowball effect. Everybody just agreed with me. And so that's when I also decided to start the Justice for Delana Facebook page. And from there, overnight, I started it. The next day I got up, there was about close to 700 followers already, and it just started growing. And I realized Delana had touched so many people, which we did not even know. I mean, there was even people that said, we don't know this lady, we've never met her, but her story just resonates with me. And with Delana, her death, I always say, is a seed for many women, because many women also found their voice. Many women said, I've been going through this year, or I've been through this and I've kept quiet about it. I want my story to be known that I was abused, or I'm going through abuse. So, even in death, she had touched so many people's lives. The sisters were, still been a journey for them. Losing someone in their family they looked up to was a pillar, their elder sister. She was the life of the family, of family gatherings. And so, the amazing thing is that she brought people together. She was the glue. She really was the glue. Leaving behind 3 children, her daughter's actually now finishing matric, and so there's so much they always desire that she would be around to see all this. But tragically, this is she became a part of the statistic, but our date was never in vain. Our date was never in vain. Yeah.
What do you think is the takeaway for families like Delana's? What do you think Friday is going to mean for families like hers?
I think it's a chance for families that have been going through GBV to say that we don't want our daughter or child is not just a number. They're a human being. They are missed. They were loved. They contributed to family. So it's a chance for people to take a serious look, and also for ladies to say, a few years ago was the hashtag Am I Next? And so it's to take root and to see, be careful of relationships you get into. I always say that to ladies, let Friday be where we can reflect and see the kind of relationships you get into. We see what are the red flags. I always say to ladies now, I even went to we went to quite a few schools this year, and we used to say, I say to the young people, when you get to college and you're dating, look out for the red flags. What are the red flags? Because behind that fake smile is a monster lurking.
That's true.
Behind the good deeds is a monster lurking. And they can be in church, they can be in mosques, they can be in temples. They are found everywhere. And so these conversations need to be had. And so families can take from that. And also, community organizations, civic organizations, churches, mosques, temples, they can say, let us gather together and talk about GBV. Men, do you have a problem? Come to us before it gets too late. Before you kill that woman, or ladies, before you also maybe kill that man or hurt that family, that child, let us talk about this. It's a time for reflection. And so that's why we're also saying to the community of Pietermaritzburg, because people have been asking on social media, is there anything happening in Pietermaritzburg? We're saying, yes, Unite Against GBV is doing something outside the City Hall on Friday at 10 a.m., and we're saying wear black or purple. If you can't wear that, then just come. Your presence is welcome. We're having a silent protest, and people may ask why a silent protest, because we feel that many times that's how the justice system has been to victims. We get silence from them. I said to my team, have you noticed how when victims either have a complaint or contact us, the first step, they'll either come straight to us instead of going to the police. Why? They've lost faith in the police or SAPS. They've lost faith. Secondly, they will, if they do go to the police, then they'll come to us. They'll say, cops, the SAPS or investigating officer has not contacted us. No one has contacted us. I've just received only a case number. Thirdly, if it does go to court, it's either a deal has been made, there's a mediation, they're not happy with. So it's like they've been failed on three different systems, and so we are saying, SAPS, and I'll be honest with you, I've been getting incredible help from a lot of SAPS members, and that's how I always say to people, there are some good cops out there, there really are, and it's just those few rotten apples that make everyone seem bad. And in the NPA, there has been some good results, and so I've had dialogue with the NPA, and so that has been helpful. So we always say they are always, if you've got the right systems and the right networks, you're able to get the results you want.
Now, speaking about Friday and also what can be done, you know, if you feel, as you say, people need somewhere to go to because if they feel like some part of the justice system has failed
Sure.
them, who can they go to? Who can they talk to this? Who can they talk to their situation about? And for Friday, what's the plan? If you aren't able to make it to any one of the venues, what colors will we be dressing in, and
Sure.
what can you do at home or at your workplace with your
Yeah.
colleagues?
Yeah, the first question, who they can contact, they can always reach out to us if they feel they cannot contact anyone. We are on all social media platforms as our names, Unite Against GBV. People, Women for Change has asked for everyone to wear black as a symbol of mourning. And some have also said they also want people to wear purple, because of the purple status that has gone all throughout globally. And if people are at work and their bosses cannot give them off, even for hours, so they're asking that they have these conversations during their lunch break. Take 15 minutes in honor of those 15 women that are killed, or women that are killed every day. Have those 15-minute conversations. How can we better our workplace? Because many times abuse also takes place at workplaces. Abuse happens at workplaces, and it's like there's no safe places anymore. And so have those conversations at work, have those conversations at school, wherever you are. There's no excuse not to take 15 minutes to have those conversations and say, can we do better? What can we do better in our workplaces? I mean, we need to ask ourselves hard questions before GBV can be. Obviously, we always say it'll probably never be totally eradicated, but
Thank you,
we can
Elton,
bring down the numbers
for
significantly
joining us
if we have hard
about
conversations
such
with
an
each other.
important issue.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
In our previous segments, we've spoken to organizations which work and support GBV victims. Joining me is Asheena John, and she's the hospital manager at St. Catherine's Life Path Hospital. They have recently launched, along with Love to Live, Brave Haven, which is a center where victims can seek refuge in their times of trouble. Thank you for joining us, Asheena.
Thank you. Okay, let's start off by saying how this whole idea came into reality. So Dr. Dan Mudley, he is the director of Love to Live. He approached us. He's one of the psychiatrists that treats patients at our facility. He approached us about launching this initiative in collaboration with Love to Live and a few other role players. And without thinking twice, we decided to take on this initiative. And it was something amazing, something we could give back to the public. We are a private psychiatric facility, and obviously majority of our patients are private patients that are, coming out paying their stays are paid by the medical aids and things. So we wanted to give back to the community as much as we could. After approaching our head office, who also thought that this was an amazing idea, we decided to launch this initiative. Brave Haven is essentially a part of our facility, but it's a different initiative in the sense that the patients or the survivors will come through and they will be admitted amongst the rest of our patients. I think a lot of people out there just want to know, where is this shelter? I would like to say that it's not a separate shelter. It's run with, as part of St. Catherine's Hospital. And essentially, the patient or the survivor will be in contact with the SAPS, where they will be called out and they will go through to the scene of the incident or where the violence is actually happening. At that point in time, the survivor is removed from their residence by the SAPS. And of course, the cases are opened at whichever is the nearest police station within their catchment area. And of course, you can't put the survivors back in that environment. So the next step obviously would be to look for shelter for them. They do look for shelters or for housing within their normal shelters, but it's not always possible because of the increase in GBV out there. There's a lack of shelters for these survivors. So that's how we have come on board. And once those shelters are full to capacity, then they will contact us and they will let us know that they do have a survivor and we need to, house them for that time frame. Majority of the time, the survivors are found over long weekends, around paydays, because obviously there's increase in intoxication, drug abuse, whatever, that actually causes all of these problems. And then they come through, through to the facility with SAPS after having laid the charge that they need, that they had to. If they are rape victims, they obviously have to visit the Tutuzela clinics and have the whole assessments done, and then they come through to us. We have Dr. Dan Mudley and we have Dr. Rianta Bridgemohan that have come on board with the initiative, of course, and they will be seeing these patients pro bono if, of course, they don't have medical aids and things like that. So they will be seeing these patients. We have offers from social workers if that's needed. We have 2 pharmacies. One is Orient Pharmacy, and there's another pharmacy also that have come on board to offer medication if the patient needs any form of medication. Our facility provides the housing and the meals and the bed for these patients. Department of Health have come on board. They've offered assistance in terms of toiletries if we ever require clothing, and they have said that if we require any other assistance, we can just let them know and they will come forth with those requirements. So ever since August, when the initiative launched, we've had 1 case since, and that was about a month ago. And that case ran actually very smoothly. We thought, okay, we might have hiccups along the way, but it was a mother and child, and we housed that patient. And this patient was amongst others because we obviously don't want to create stigma as well with the GBV survivors. So we want them to live as normal as possible within the facility, but as comfortable as possible as well.
So what does the first 24 hours look like for a survivor? And how do they feel? Because obviously they come in and they have their own, their fears, their concerns. So what's it like for them, and how are they reassured at St. Catherine's and Bravehaven?
So this case specifically was a mother and child. And I think at that point in time, they just have relief, that they're out of the environment. They have relief that they have shelter for, the next few days until they have made their own arrangements or until SAPS has made the necessary arrangements. Their concern and SAPS helps a lot in terms of they make sure before they remove the survivors from their homes, they at least have the chance to remove their clothing, their toiletries, if children are involved, or in this instance, a baby was involved, their formulas and things like that. So they did come through with all of that there. We provided whatever else was short in terms of toiletries, their meals were provided. And I think that's the most important thing, especially when there's children involved. The parents are wondering where, the children are going to get their next meal from because they're taken away from their place of comfort. And we have provided all of that for them. We have a team of fully trained staff, nursing staff. Our admin staff is very well aware of this initiative that we've taken on, and they've all been alerted as to what are the protocols. We do have certain policies that we need to follow, and essentially, because we're not stigmatizing them, the rest of the facility is not aware that this is a GBV victim. So they giving them the comfort, they talking to them normally. And I think that's what the GBV survivors want. They want to feel as normal as possible. They don't want to continuously be reminded of what, happened to them.
Happened, yes.
And so they have friendly faces to turn to. They have their hot meals provided. They have their roof over their head and the comforts, of the warmth within the environment.
I'm sure you are aware of, what the victim comes in, scared, tired, and so forth. But when they leave Bravehaven and St. Catherine's, what's it like to see them from the journey that they've started to when they leave? Because obviously they're refreshed, they're at the state of calm, and obviously advised about what is the next steps going forward.
So with this patient in particular, it was an amazing experience. We actually received a review from SAPS because obviously the survivor gave them feedback about, their stay at the facility. And she left there revitalized, she left there confident. And I think being amongst people that can motivate you and people that can make you feel as normal as possible gives you a fighting chance and makes you realize that not everybody is out to hurt you. There are some people out there to comfort you. So the review that she gave was amazing in terms of the staff, the support, and the essentials that was given to her when she needed it most.
I remember at the launch, and this is something that's common, when a survivor, if their perpetrator is amongst their home or in the community, and at times if they are in a relationship with that person, or if they have to go back to the home where this perpetrator is, what's it like? Any advice for people who go back to a situation? Because oftentimes you'll find that as much as they can come out, get assistance, but then when they leave, then they go back to the relationship, or they go back to the home of the perpetrator, and then they are in the situation again. Any words of advice, even if they go back, to remind them that they are still supported regardless of their decision, and that there's always a place that they can get assistance should they be found in such a situation again?
So I think the fact that we've launched Bravehaven and being a psychiatric facility, it gives us the overview of the whole picture, basically. And you will find a lot of the times that the survivors do go back to the homes where they were abused. But there's nothing that we can do. We can only support as a community, as a healthcare facility, and advise them. At the end of the day, that person needs to make the decision for themselves. And remember that leaving is not as easy as it seems. We on the outside can say, no, leave, it's in your best interest, you don't want to go back to that house. But this is the comfort of their home. This is the person that they've lived with forever. And obviously there's some financial gains, in it as well, because this person might not be the breadwinner, or even be working for themselves, so they go back for those reasons. And the only thing that we can continue doing is supporting them, giving them the contact numbers and saying to them, you know what, we are there if you ever need us again. And more especially, when they leave, they must know that there are support groups out there. There are social workers out there to continue seeing them. And I think from the psychiatrist's point of view, they do follow-ups to check in on these people, because you're not just leaving this person that has now recovered from the violence that was there, but there was also emotional scars that were left behind. So they definitely do need those follow-ups, and it is provided for them if and when necessary.
What are some of the misconceptions about GBV shelters, or the stigmas attached to someone saying, look, I need help, I'm going to go to the shelter? What are some of the stigmas and that people think or consider before they actually get help, that you would like to share light on, and that's not actually true?
I think the biggest misconception out there is that it only happens to women. When we launched this initiative, there were comments being made about the male genders, coming across and saying, we have been victims or survivors. And we heard the side comments. And we said to ourselves, but honestly speaking, it can happen to either gender. And I think for males to come out and say that they have been abused, that they have been victims, to violence, it takes a lot out of them. And I think that's one of the biggest things, because for a male to come out and say, my wife has been abusing me, or my girlfriend has been violent with me, it's something so rare, and that's something that we really need to move away from. The shelters out there, a lot of people will be saying, especially if you're coming from a home that provides luxury to you, you're wanting to now weigh the options. Do I leave the comforts of my home and move to the shelter? Because really now, are they going to provide me with all of these things? And the reality is, do we want the luxuries of home, or do we want the luxury of safety? That's something that definitely needs to be weighed and really looked into. But like I said before, nobody can be forced to do anything. They need to want to take the next step before anything else.
Now, for those out there who don't know, if they are in a situation where they need somewhere to turn to, if it's at midnight or at 2 a.m., can they come to Brave Haven?
So Brave Haven is a shelter of safety. The thing is, as much as we want to take in everybody that's being abused, we have to make sure that the necessary steps are taken. And we don't want the system to be abused as well. So the system literally has to follow the steps necessary. And before anything else, you have to lay the charge. You have to contact SAPS. You have to say that you are a survivor first, lay the charge, get the medicals done if and when, what's necessary, because without those medicals, the charges then become hard to fight, legally. So at least if all those steps are done, then SAPS brings you across to Brave Haven. But it has to start off there.
how can the community support this initiative? I think it's quite important that a community is aware of what they can do to support such initiatives, and and they can do it in many ways, whether it's just helping to get a victim there and so forth.
I think in our own little communities, they do come together. They just don't know the right processes. And that's what needs to be put out there for everybody to understand. The communities need to come together to make people realize that GBV is not the norm. They need to come together to show support for these people instead of taking videos and posting it on media and showing people that, the neighbors are fighting. This is what's happening down the road. They need to come together and say, we want this to stop. Call out the SAPS, because some women women or men actually don't have the resources sometimes. During those fights, the phones are broken. They don't have the resources to call out the SAPS. So that would be the first step. And obviously, if there's children involved, shelter them for that point in time, to decrease the severity of the whole situation as well.
One of the biggest campaigns are taking place on Friday. And how is St. Catherine's Life Path Hospital, along with Brave Haven, participating in this campaign?
So on Friday, we, in collaboration with Love to Live, will be doing the placard stance in Mountain Rise, if I'm not mistaken. It's opposite Northway Mall, the vacant area there, where we will be demonstrating basically what we stand for. So St. Catherine's staff will be out there showing our support for the GBV survivors, and to actually say to those other people out there that we need to stop this and we need to come together as a community to do that. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, we look forward to seeing you guys on Friday as well, joining in. And yes, I think that every bit of support towards the initiative is going to be of great help.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Asheena.